Okay. So this time, in comparison to last time, I am going to be checking audio on YouTube. So I have my phone ready because it's a bit of a lag, but we are not going to have an entire YouTube live with me echoing. Let's see. Oh, my headphones. This is what happens when you're nearly not prepared. Live with me echoing. Okay, we're good. Let's see. Perfect. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Whether you're on YouTube or you are on TikTok, I was about to say Twitch. We are not there yet. Um, I just have one more thing I want to fix, but I'm going to do that live because why not? Why not? There's something about this. Is it the saturation? I think this is okay. There we go. Better. All right. So I don't have a plan for today, except the plan, which is to talk about this that's happening, or that's ending tonight. And I also have some work stuff to do. So I'm going to be working, chatting, answering questions, and talking over and over and over and over again about Fluency Mastery Lab Pro because the doors to my language coaching membership close tonight. And I wanted to make sure that for people who, like, this is the first time that you're even hearing about this, that you know what is happening. You know what this membership's all about. You know what language coaching's all about. You know about the opportunity that I am presenting to you so that you can make the decision of whether or not you feel you need language coaching support, whether you are doing an amazing job solo or with the other supports that you have available to you, or if you are someone who is like, I just want to talk with my friends in Korean and I am so frustrated that I can't. Like, I'm still not there. I've been studying Spanish since middle school and I still can only count my numbers up to 30 and maybe have a very basic conversation about who my family is. You know, if those are some of the things that you're struggling with in the languages that you're learning, or even if you're like me and you tend to collect a lot of books in languages that you would like to learn, maybe you're like, Bront'e, I have so many books on my shelf right now for the languages that I've been trying to learn for years, and I just want to read these books. Like, I want to read them, and I want to read them without having to pull out my phone and look up every individual word because I don't know any of the words in this book. Like, I am tired, Bront'e, of constantly having to look up words in a dictionary because I'm not enjoying the reading or I'm not enjoying the movie. Oh, no audio. So there's audio on YouTube and there's no audio. Huh. Thank you. There we go. I think. Hmm. Is it better? Hmm. That is hilarious. So when I finally get YouTube to work, TikTok's not working. Is it working? What? That is so weird. Okay, wait, here we go. There we go. That is hilarious. So when I get, hold on, let me turn up the audio monitor. So when I get, thank you so much for telling me about the audio. It's so funny because the last time I did a live, audio was horrible over on YouTube, and I had no idea until the very end. But TikTok was fine. Today, is it working? Today is the day for. Today is the absolute day for. There we. Okay. Oh boy. So it works here, but it's not working through this. No, it is. And yeah. Okay. Sound check. Hmm. The most hilarious experience. Okay. All right. It showed it was working, but I don't see it happening here. I thought I heard myself. So then I'm just going to hope that people on TikTok are going to tell me if the sound is working out. Well, because I can't even check on here. That is so funny. Luckily, I am good at improv and I'm good at adapting and I'm good at just saying, we tried our best and we keep moving. Because otherwise, um, yeah, I even put it here. Tech issues all day. Maybe if I go on the website. Not now. Hmm. The one I didn't think I had to check on is the one that I have to actually check on. Oh, I do get to watch my live. Okay. Okay. It's working now. That's so weird. Okay. We're good. Tech issues, but we're fine. We adapt. We grow. We learn. And we don't take ourselves too seriously over here. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, then that means TikTok missed my little spiel where I basically was just saying why we are live in the first place, which is I am here to talk all about this right here, Fluency Mastery Lab Pro, which is closing today. So today is the last day to join. After that, I will not be opening doors again until sometime next year. I haven't decided when. I don't know if it's going to be 6 months, a whole year, but something like that. And I'm going to talk all about language coaching, my coaching membership, and really what you, not just what you get, because like you can just look at the page if you want to know what you get, but really just about the power of language coaching. So I know that language coaching is fairly new and not many people know or like get what it is that we do as coaches. But I know my goal, my purpose as a coach for language learners. So I work with people who are learning multiple languages, who are learning it just for fun, who are learning languages to talk with their families, learning languages for work, a combination of those things. But ultimately, I'm helping my people go from being extremely frustrated and not seeing any progress at all to, not having a clear plan, routine, whatever it might be, watching other people make progress, to being extremely confident and fluent in using the languages that they're learning in the ways that you want to use them, whether it is talking with your friends and family, whether it is watching dramas in the languages that you're learning. Like, lots of people loving K-dramas and telenovelas. Um, or if you're like me and you are a collector of books in other languages because you're like, one day I will be able to read these books on my shelf. Today, well, today's not the day you're going to read them, but today is the day you're going to start your journey to reading those books. And so that's what I help people with. And the way that you get from, inconsistent, really frustrated, overwhelmed, which I have definitely been there again and again and again. Like, it was a cycle for me for a few years, to actually seeing progress, making progress, and using the languages you're learning is consistency. It's really all about being consistent with your language studies. And that's one of the things that I specialize in as a language coach. So, my sort of idea, because like I said in the beginning, I don't have a plan for today. I'm just going to be talking and rambling and answering questions. I have a little work to do, so I have Notion up as well. And so I want you, whether you're watching here on TikTok or on YouTube, because I am in both places, although the bar below me only says also live on TikTok. Let me know questions you have about language learning, questions you have about language coaching, or just let me know if you're learning languages, what languages are they? Because I could literally talk about it for hours. And I'm very excited to be sharing all of this with you, to be talking about, what I do and why I do what I do, because I have been learning languages for probably close to 15 years or so. And personally, I am at language number, wait, is it 8 or 9? I should know this answer. I always say 8, but I think it's 9 actually. Spanish, French, Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, Russian, American Sign Language, Black American Sign Language. 9. It's 9. I always forget Tutnese. It's 9. And probably in a month or so, I'm going to be doing 2 or 3 new ones. I am going a little crazy, and I'm going to do more than one at the same time, but I'm doing it to prove a point, because I am doing it using the things that I teach and I share with people, whether they've taken my course or have joined my membership. And that's going to be German, Portuguese, and Italian. I haven't decided if I want to just do one or if I want to do more, all 3, but something in the realm of one of those. But again, I have pretty much tried almost everything. The only thing I haven't tried for my personal language studies is moving to a country in order to learn, which you can't move to a country and then automatically learn the language. You still have to put in the work. You still have to do the studying in order to learn. Just being there and immersed in the language helps. But, I've taken formal classes, like in-person classes. I have taken online classes. I've hired a tutor. I've done so much self-studying. Most of the language learning that I do right now is self-studying. I've used textbooks. I've used apps. I loved apps and I love textbooks. I have a whole list of like YouTube channels and things that I collect and podcasts. So like, I've dabbled in all the things, and then I bring all of that to my people to be like, okay, based on my experience and the experience of people that I've worked with, here's what I can share with you. Here's how I can support you. So for example, I have one person in my membership right now who has been working through different ways to build her French skills. So we've been working together for over a year, and she's been really hyper focused on Icelandic. She's like, that's the language that I really just want to read text in Icelandic. That's my goal. So we've spent the past year together. She's gone through my course. She shifted into my membership, and we've been having coaching on a weekly basis where essentially it's, okay, what's your plan? How can we set your expectations? How can we keep you consistent? And she's been consistent around probably closer to 9 months now, because when we first had this update, it was maybe a month or so ago. 9 months of consistency in Icelandic, to the point where she is now reading things in Icelandic, which was her goal. Now, is she reading like adult novels? No, but she is reading, and that is a huge accomplishment. So she was like, okay, now I'm ready to add in another language. I want to pick back up my French. Now, if you've ever restarted a language, I've restarted 3 languages. Some of them, 2 of them, I've restarted like 3 or 4 times. It is not easy. It's a messy area. Like if language learning is already very messy, restarting a language is like all over the place. And so her start using a lot of the things that I teach in my course was, I just want to make it fun. I want to keep it really chill. And we talked about one of the ways that I have found restarting to be easier, which is evaluating where your gaps are. Because if you've learned a language before and then you stopped for a long period of time, whether it's because of burnout, because you stopped taking classes, you lost motivation for it, whatever it is, there's still knowledge in there. There's still knowledge in your brain. You just have to reactivate it. And so whatever things you did when you were learning the language, those are some things that you can adopt right now to evaluate. And we went through a whole like plan of how to do that for her specifically, that so it was more personalized to her. She did that for a few weeks, and then in our call a couple weeks ago, she was like, okay, Bront'e, I'm ready to actually be more strategic with my studying with French, because I've been keeping up with it. I feel really good about what I've been doing, but now I want to make progress. But here is the challenge that she brought to the call. She was like, Bront'e, I want to do all the things in French. With Icelandic, she wanted to focus on reading, but with French, she's like, I want to read, I want to write, I want to speak it. I want to understand it when I hear all the pieces. And she's like, I don't know what skill to focus on first, if I should do all of them. And so long story short, that's what we broke down and talked about so that she could have a concrete plan. And she's been following that for 2 weeks right now. So I'm excited about that. And, so when I have a coaching call with one of my people, either one-on-one or in a group, or even my asynchronous ones, which are my not live sessions, the goal is to figure out where you are right now. Like, what are you working with? What have you done? What have you done that has worked? What have you done that has not worked? Let's unpack that. That's the clarity stage. Because if we don't have clarity, then the plan that you create is almost always going to fail you. It's not failure, but it's going to fail you, meaning it's going to lead to disappointment. You're going to do some routine wandering, which means you're not really staying focused and on track. You might do a lot of productive procrastination, which means you are studying, but you're not doing the thing you should be doing. All these other areas. And so we start with the clarity first, and then we go into the details. We think about, how can we translate this really cool idea into an actionable plan that you can do realistically? Because I think sometimes when we're creating a plan for ourselves, it can be really easy to not be specific, which can easily lead to procrastination. So if you say, I'm going to sit down and read the textbook. For some people, they just know, okay, I'm going to do the textbook. And when they sit down, they can decide exactly what they're going to do. That's a really flexible task for your schedule. But for other people, they need a lot more rigidity. Like a more rigid task for their schedule, which means that you probably need to tell yourself exactly what you're going to do when you sit down. You can't have any wiggle room of thinking about it, guessing, making a decision in the moment, because that is when you drift off. So, we, in our sessions, we'll talk about that. And one of the things I really love about the group sessions, and this is something both personally for me when I'm in group sessions for coaching in other areas, and when we have them in the membership, is that even if you come to a session and you're like, you don't have a question, or, maybe it's your first coaching session with me ever, and you're like, I just want to feel things out and take notes. You learn so much just from listening in on the kinds of questions that other people ask. You learn so much from listening into the feedback that people get from those questions. And maybe, and this is me going back to like my teaching days, sometimes there's one person who's really brave. I call them a brave soul, brave enough to ask the question that many other people were thinking, but were too hesitant or scared to ask, which is valid. But that one person that asked the question, three other people are like, I was thinking the same thing, but I don't want to say it out loud. So thank you for saying it out loud for us. And then you're getting the feedback that you didn't even know you needed, or that you knew you needed, but you didn't know how to ask for. And then you walk away from that call going, okay, I know what I need to do, or I feel, validated in the choice that I've made. Because sometimes as language learners, especially with all of the information out online, like there's tons of information nowadays. When I was studying, Korean back in 2012, 2008 or so, like there were some good places, but in comparison to now where everybody, everybody seems to be teaching like Korean, for example, or Japanese or Spanish, whatever it is, there's so much more resources now than there were before. And so I think that because there's so much information, the challenge that we often face is not necessarily where to find information, where to find resources to learn languages. It's really just how do I make the decision? And then how do I stick to that decision? Now, obviously, there are some, what's the word I'm looking for? Exceptions. If you're learning an indigenous language, if you're learning a language that's not as common, I have someone in one of my groups, someone in my free Facebook group is learning Lithuanian. And so she has some trouble finding resources for like beginners and for learning. Even resources that I would think would have them, like Pimsleur, I think only has one chapter or one section, whatever category they give them or call them. And so that makes it really hard for new learners to go in. And there has to be more, you have to be a lot more strategic and savvy in how you use resources that are available. So it's less about like following a clear textbook, following a website that breaks down grammar from beginner to advanced, and it's more about, okay, what resource do I have available? What strategy am I using and why am I using it? Now let's adapt it for my beginner level. So for example, you might find tons of podcasts in the language that you're learning, again, if it's something that's not really common. But these podcasts are really advanced for your level. You're like, I am brand new to this language. I can't understand what these people are saying yet. I will get there, but I am not there right now. And so there are tons of things that you can do. And these are the kinds of conversations that we have inside of FM Lab, which are, you could slow the speed down. You could look for transcripts. You could use this as an intensive or an extensive listening opportunity. Just thinking off the top of my head, you can use it as a sentence building resource. I think nowadays with AI, you could probably, if you have access to one, you could put that podcast through something that can give you a transcript if there's not one available. Not if there's one available and it's, paid. Go pay the person who created the thing and, support them in creating more. But if there's no transcript at all, you can try to find one. And that's why I think YouTube's a great resource for listening resources too. So if the language you're learning, you can't really find resources or resources at your level, go on YouTube. Then they're going to be generated captions. Are they going to be 100%? No. Most of the time they're not. They're a little weird. But it gets you there. It gets you close enough to where you can use a dictionary. And actually, since I'm bringing up dictionaries, let me look to see what other languages are available in word references. So word references, if you don't know that one, this is a dictionary that I love because it has not only a variety, but it's able to help me with my laddering of languages. So laddering languages is essentially you learning one language using another non-native language. So for example, I use Spanish to help me with my French. I use French to help me with my Russian. I use Japanese to help me with my Korean and Korean to help me with my Chinese. And so we have Netherlands, Francis, Alemán. Is that Greek? I've never actually seen the word Greek in Spanish. Or I've never paid attention, I guess. Oh, they don't have it. Challenge accepted. See, now we're going to be looking. Lithuanian. So I guess also while I'm looking this up now, let me know what language, if you're watching, whether it's on TikTok or YouTube, what language or languages are you learning or interested in learning? Because right now we're talking a little bit about, well, we're talking about everything, but also just talking about how to find resources when the language you're learning isn't as common. So a language like Lithuanian, which is what one person in my free group is currently learning. So I think Icelandic and Swedish are a little bit more common. And I know Lithuanian is very similar-ish. Well, actually, I don't know that because I'm not studying it. Let me not quote that because I'm not studying it. I don't know. But I know when we talked about it during their coaching week, she was talking about cases. And I was like, I have to deal with cases in Russian a lot. So I definitely understand the whole like struggle with learning a new language where cases are involved. And if you don't know what cases are, you're not learning a language with cases, don't worry about it. Pretend you never heard that. Pretend you didn't hear anything. Because there's no reason to complicate it and complicate this entire process if you don't need to, you know? So, wait, can I bring that back and just turn it off? There we go. So yeah, so I am here to talk about the language coaching, to answer questions, and like I said, I'm also here to do some work. So what I have to get done, I've already started doing a huge update of um the membership and all the different spaces. There's still some things I have to update, like the resources, but the bulk of what is expected. Oh, that was done too. Oh, I just didn't update the graphics. Got it. Okay, so I just have to update the graphics. So yeah, my goal is to update all the different sections. So for example, there are 4 stages that I walk everyone through in the membership to get you from frustrated to fluent. Stage 1 is foundation. So it's getting you all set up to do the work so that you can actually start using the languages that you're learning. Whether you're focused on one language right now, you're focused on multiple languages, that's what the foundation stage is about. It's laying the foundations. So that's where we go over, sorry, is this working? Okay. So that's where we go over your guiding principles, which are basically your why for learning languages. We go over creating your personalized plan. So that's taking your guiding principle, establishing some goals, big goals and tiny goals. I talk through those things, and then designing your overall plan, and then creating your schedule. And kind of like I talked about in the coaching week with people who participated, we talk about things like the 4 different kinds of schedules that you can create, because I am a believer that everyone should create a schedule for their language studies. And so those are like the 3 big milestones. And then I provide resources to help you get there so that you are not floundering after I say, hey, design a personalized plan. And you're like, Bront'e, I don't even know where to start. I've got you. We have workshops, we have guides, we have worksheets, workbooks, like all these different things to help you get there. And then once you have those foundations, basically once you have your schedule created, your plan created, then you move on to stage 2, which is growth. And this is where you're building your routine, you are choosing your resources, building the fundamental skills in the language that you're learning. And fundamental does not mean beginner skills. This may be a language that you have learned before, but you're restarting. Fundamental just means that you are filling in the gaps and getting yourself on track to actually start seeing some progress. Because in order to get to here, which is fluency, you have to go here, which is consistent progress. And in order to get consistent progress, you have to have a schedule and a plan of how you're going to be consistent and what you're going to be doing. Like all these pieces need to be in place. And so we talk about these things in stage 2. And then you move on to stage 3, which is momentum. Have started studying, you are seeing progress. Maybe you're listening to some videos and you're like, oh my God, I actually recognize some words. I recognize some sentences. I didn't understand everything, but some is better than none. Like, it's great. And this is one of my favorite stages as a beginner, is that moment where all the gibberish and the I understand nothing becomes, oh my God, I understand a little bit in this language. Like, I understand like 5% in this language. That's exciting. And we want to keep that momentum going, which is why stage 3 exists. And so stage 3 is where you are doing all things related to, for example, building your habits. So we think about, what is your routine, your ongoing routine going to look like in your language studies, and then refining your skills. So any and everything that helps you to build your speaking, your listening, your reading, your writing, your grammar, your vocabulary, your pronunciation, your intonation, whatever it is that you are trying to focus on, because some people coming into the community and into Fluency Mastery Lab are really just wanting to learn to read a language. So obviously they're not going to focus on the parts in stage 3 that are specifically talking about speaking. They're going to focus on the reading components. But then there are some people who are learning a language to talk with their family, to talk with their friends, because they're prepared to travel either in the near future or, far along in the future. And so you're going to focus on some speaking strategies, maybe some grammar and vocabulary strategies. But it's at that point when you're in refining your study skills, it's kind of a choose your own adventure, because again, it's based on you and your needs. And that's why the foundations is so important, because when you know exactly how you expect to use the language, you will be able to see the progress that you're expecting to see. Or if you don't, you know that something in your overall system is not working and you get to adapt and change it. All of these pieces, again, need to be there because the goal is to get you using the language. And, as of right now, we cannot just learn a language through osmosis. We cannot just grab a book in a foreign language, press it to our heads, and then suddenly absorb all the information. We have to actually do the work. I'm saying that because if I could, I wouldn't be first in line. I'm fix that real quick. I will not be first in line to any technology that allows me to press a book to my head and learn the language. I will let people go first, figure out if it's working or not. I'll go when it's prepared. But until that happens, whatever technology happens, those of us who are interested in learning languages, who love learning languages, whether it's personally just because we love languages or because we have a very clear and specific goal in mind, we got to put in the work. And one of the reasons why I even started what I do now is because we as learners are not always taught how to learn. We are just taught the information. So when it comes to language teaching versus language coaching, the language teacher is obviously going to teach you the language. They're going to walk you from step A to step Z in the language, all the grammar, vocab, giving you practice time, and all the skills or whatever skills that you focus on. Like, that's your job, to get you to master this specific language. But when you're not in class or when you are learning multiple languages, what are you going to do in order to maintain the progress, in order to keep up with the class, and in order to balance either the language in your life or the multiple languages that you are learning? Those are the kinds of things that I get asked a lot, and those are the kinds of things that I support people with, because you have your language teacher helping you to acquire, understand, use, practice the language, so you can actually see yourself using it and feel that accomplishment. And you bring the things that you've been doing with the teacher to say, okay, Bront'e, like in class today, we focused on this one chapter and there was a lot of vocab that I really didn't understand. And we're going to have a quiz on it in 2 weeks. How am I going to master this vocabulary? Like, I know we're going to practice it in class, but I feel like I also need to be practicing it on my own. I can't rely entirely on class. I'm like, let's do it. So let's figure out what works best for you. Have you used flashcards before? Yes or no? Do you like to use flashcards? I have used flashcards for probably close to 10 years. I do not like them personally, but I will always, 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 always recommend them for other people if you've never tried them, because they do work for some people. I use them short term, so I don't put pressure on myself to use them every single day for years. I use them in a short burst. Like if an app has flashcards in it, I'm going to use it, but I'm not trying to get a streak. I'm not trying to do them daily. I just do them to get through the app, if that makes sense. I am not a flashcard person, and I am okay with that. I have come to terms with that. But some of the people that I work with and some of the people that I am friends with and, I partner with love flashcards. It's great. I think we all need to have different perspectives because there are so many different ways that we can learn a language. The goal is to just choose the way that you want to learn the language and do it. Like actually do the thing that you said you're going to do. So let me see if I can take this. We're good. We can do this. So I think if you remember nothing else, whether you want language coaching, whether you feel you need language coaching or not, is you need to do what works best for you in your language studies. You need to first figure out what it is you need and why you need the thing. And then you need to actually create the path for yourself. What direction are you going to go in? Make a decision, stick to it for more than just a couple days or even a week. Because I think that's another thing that people do is they set out to learn a language, they choose some resources and some different things, and then decide, I don't think it's working. I'm just going to stop. And you can't just stop because you haven't seen if it's working or not. Like you haven't really given it enough of a chance to see if it's working. And especially if it's something that you wanted to do, you haven't adapted it. Sometimes we can't just use a textbook as it is. We have to adapt it. Sometimes we can't just use a podcast with no plan. We have to figure out how we're going to use it in a way that works best for us. Like, for example, I love listening to podcasts, but I struggle to learn from podcasts. I generally use them as passive learning. Or passive listening. If I'm trying to learn from a textbook, I have to be doing something else. I have to be writing things down. I have to be doing some sort of movement, exercising, washing dishes, whatever it might be, because I need that activation of another part of my brain in order to help me actually pay close attention and listen. So I just want to check. Are we doing? Okay, we're doing okay. Because now I'm like very concerned about audio. But I think we're doing okay. So if you are watching right now, again, whether you are on YouTube or on TikTok, hello, hello. So glad to have you here. Is it still working? Very concerned. Okay, we're good. So yeah, so I'm here hanging out, chit-chatting, and I should actually get some stuff done. So I might, where did I leave off with this actually? Did I do milestone 3 yet? No. Oh, I just did milestone 1. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So I actually didn't finish that, which is fine. So we're going to take this. We're going to put this here. And then in this milestone, you will choose your resources for your studies. I guess resources and strategies, right? Yes. Absolutely. Close this area. Close milestone number 1. Choose your resources and study strategies for your language studies. The goal create. You're on. There we go. Choose is to find resources that. Thank you, Prue. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am multitasking again today while I talk about the membership for language coaching, which you already know about. I appreciate that. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. And I'm also doing some updates. So I am right now in Notion, going all in. Like the entire core set of core resources is getting a big update. And I am just typing it all in Notion first, and then I'm transferring it over. So I already started updating some stuff tonight, which was really exciting. I was also in Canva. But yeah, I recognize that I want things to be a little bit more clear and organized. So I've, for example, separated milestones out. I've gone more in depth to explain all the different stages. What's the most languages someone you helped is try to learn or trying to learn? 1, 2, 3, 5. 5. So I have someone right now who is keeping up with German and I believe Spanish on her own, has been actively studying Swedish, is trying to finish back up because we had a few weeks of no studying because of life happened. So Swedish, Finnish, Dutch a little bit, Japanese, German, and I think Spanish. So maybe 6. That's the most. And then I have another person who's about 5, but has really been heavily focused on Korean for a while, but is now trying to pick back up Japanese and Chinese, and then also wants to get back into Spanish and French. So about 5 or 6. And then I have some people who are focused on 3, some that are focused on 2. Yeah, so a lot of the people are definitely in my boathouse of like, I want to juggle a bunch of languages. I'm like, I've got you. I know exactly how that is. Let's figure this out together in a way that works best for you. Yeah. It's a little wild, but I like it, but I also recognize that it is not for everyone. So part of the work that I do when working with language learners is saying, I mean, and you've been here for a while, so you kind of know this, but it's just, okay, if you are learning more than 2 at a time, or even more than 1, you have to understand a few different things that you might encounter. 1, progress is probably going to be slower for you because you're dividing your time. Most people say because you're dividing your time, it is something you shouldn't do. I disagree. I say you're dividing your time. Just be prepared for that. If you're okay with slow progress, a slower progress, that's fine. You can adapt. You can do some different strategies like laddering. The next thing is being strategic about what languages you're learning at the same time. Again, there's no right or wrong way, but there are some people who are like, I want to learn Dutch and German, but those are very similar. I'm like, you could. You just have to recognize they're going to be similar and be really strategic about how you do it. It keeps it interesting. I was just contemplating if I should do that as I'm not a beginner in some. If that's something you want to do, absolutely go for it. I am all for learning and maintaining multiple at the same time. So like even I had to count in the beginning of this live, but even my 9, they're all at different levels. And also it depends on the skill. So like my reading might be higher for one language and my writing might be lower in that same language. So it's a little bit all over the place just because some of the languages I've done exclusively self-studying, and it was as I was trying to figure things out. Some languages are a little bit more balanced when I learned them in school and when I actually figured out what I was doing with self-studying. That took a bit of time. So I think if you have languages that you want to learn and it's more than one, go for it if that's what you want to do. And then you just have to be really strategic. I'm going to keep saying that word because it really is about strategy. It's like, okay, what exactly am I hoping to achieve with each language? That's the guiding principle part. That's the clarity. What are my goals? What are the milestones that I'm trying to reach? And then how am I going to reach them? What resources can I use? What strategies can I apply? Like, these are the questions that I would ask in a coaching call. Be like, what are these things? Like, what are the things you already have access to? Because there's no reason for you to go out and find new resources if you already have some. We can adapt them. We can make them work. Like, for example, one person that I'm working with, one of the strategies she was looking to apply to her French studies was reading. And I was like, do you have any reading materials already available in French? She's like, well, I have a textbook. I don't like it as a textbook, but I could pull just the reading parts out of it. Great. That's perfect. So she's not using the textbook and going through it to do all the exercises and follow step by step. She is using the reading parts of the textbook to help her make progress. And so these are the ways that you can adapt a resource to make it work for you. Exactly. Really strategic on how. Want to learn places and try to visit before the end of the year. Ooh, I don't know if I have the full list. Can you tell me the full list, Prue? Like, what's the list of all the places and or languages? I'd love to hear more. Because I know we've talked about your languages that you're learning, but I don't know if I have the full list. Very curious. But I also get that about like wanting to learn the languages for the places that you're going to. Because I'm there as well. I'm like, I don't want to go to a place and not be able to speak the language because I don't want to use like Google Translate. I also don't want to use a translator because I want to know everything the person's saying. I don't want you to sugarcoat it. I don't want you to, edit. I want to know word for word what is being said. And I want the person to understand me word for word. I also just like the idea of being in a friend group and being the translator of the group to help people. So, or like if I'm traveling with family. So I'm also thinking about all the languages that I could learn that are based in the places that I would like to visit someday or in the near future. Okay, I think the only one that I did not remember was Portugal or didn't know was Portugal. But yeah, Korea, Japan, France, Germany. Okay. Well, but at least one. Yeah, that makes sense. So now knowing that you can absolutely learn more than one right now, especially because you said you're not a beginner in some of them, what would be your plan? I'm so curious. Like, what would be the languages you want to focus on right now? As let's see, I think I was milestone 2. And time is ticking on access to membership. I'm right now it's 10:50 my time, which means that doors are closing in about an hour and 10 minutes. So an hour and 10 minutes, access to Fluency Mastery Lab will be closed for a while. I don't know if I still haven't decided if it's going to be 6 months or closer to a year, like this time next year, but a while. So I'm here to rant about it and to let people know. So German mainly because a friend is fluent. She helps me, and then Korean, pretty intermediate. Okay. I think that's great. And I also think that because they're fairly different, it's going to be harder to mix them up. I mean, it's definitely possible. I sometimes combine Japanese and Spanish, and they're not really alike at all. Although I also mixed up casa, because I would say casa umbrella and then casa house. That was its own thing. But yeah, I think those are great. And then if you wanted to add in another one, you could, but you could also keep it there for right now. Because I know you have Japanese, French, and then Portuguese next. So yeah, you could absolutely do that. And you just create a plan around that. And especially with Korean being intermediate, that means that there's a lot less foundational work that you would have to do. But there's a lot more immersion and like actually using the language. Like that's what I usually share, even like in free content that I make. because intermediate stage, a lot of people hit that intermediate plateau because they're not actively using the language. We are not actively using the language. So anytime I hit that plateau where I feel like I'm not making progress, my first question to myself is, am I using it? Am I using it in any capacity? Because if I'm not, that is why I feel stuck, because I'm not seeing the additional progress. Reconsidering Japanese because of the alphabet. The alphabet is tricky, but I mean, well, I can't even say it's easy to learn or like it's quick, because it really depends on you. But I think you don't have to master them all. Like, there's a lot of resources that say, learn it in a couple weeks and then move on. I think just getting familiar with them and knowing the differences in hiragana, katakana, and kanji, and then you just start to get into the studying. Because as you start to get exposed to words, get exposed to vocabulary, you're going to understand and master the letters. But also, if you look at that and you're like, Bront'e, I'm good. I'm good. Then you don't even have to worry about it. Because I think that's how I felt about, was it Tagalog? There was one language that I remember looking at the writing system, or I just saw a video on it and I didn't look up the accuracy. So I don't actually know how accurate it was, but it was saying something like you could read it left to right, but also some words right to left, and then also some words start in the middle and then loop. And I was like, why? Why? Why would you do that to me? I So I don't remember if it was Tagalog or something else, but it was a Asian adjacent language that I was like, I don't know if I can add that to my list. I don't know if I can do that to myself because of the alphabet, or at least like the writing and how that all works. So definitely understandable, but also completely doable. And I think with your experience with Korean, because I did the reverse, but I know some people have done it in the direction that I'm suggesting, is because of your experience with Korean, it would be really, trying to avoid that word easy. It would be easier to pick up Japanese, because like if you understand the grammar in Korean, you're going to understand the grammar in Japanese. When you look up how to like use a grammar structure, it's going to be almost identical to how it's used in Japanese. And so you've already broken down one of the biggest challenges with either of those languages, which is understanding how to say things, how to make sentences and put them together, because the structure and the order of sentences is different. You know, subject, object, verb. So because of that, you could literally use Korean to learn Japanese, and you could find Korean resources. So laddering your language. Ooh, forgot Mandarin because, oh, okay. So we got, it sounds like you kind of want to do four, but they're all going to be at different levels of intensity or, you know, focus. And that's fine if you wanted to do that. But I think the like Korean to Japanese thing is what I would recommend. I've done the reverse. So I've used Japanese to help me with my Korean. I look up as many things as I can in Japanese when I am trying to improve my Korean. And it's not necessarily because I learned Japanese first, because I actually started learning Korean, I think, first-ish. They were basically at the same time, more or less, because Japanese because of anime and Korean because of K-pop in 2008 when I first realized anime was anime and first discovered K-pop. But I had started taking Japanese classes in college, and that's what accelerated my Japanese beyond the level of Korean, because I did not understand how to self-study. And only resource that I really had was Talk to Me in Korean, but I didn't know how to stick with it. I didn't know how to stay consistent. And so I kept doing what I tend to say to, people that I'm supporting is, we're sitting there watching other people make progress, and we're sitting there not making progress and wondering what's wrong with us, or why is it not working? Why is it so hard? And it was just because I didn't know how to study. I didn't have a routine. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a goal. Like, I was just like, I just want to learn. Okay, great. What do you want to learn? I don't know, everything, I guess. That's not good enough. That's not clear enough. That's not specific enough. But that was how I, you know, thought about language learning. Was I would pick a language and then I would say, okay, I'm just gonna learn it. And that was it. That was the extent of the thinking that I did. Then I would just choose a random resource that seemed good and try it out, which is why I did so much routine wandering. I went through, if I look at the apps right now, Lingo Deer, Duolingo, Memrise, Bunpo. What else did I use? I used Kanji Garden for a little bit. And this is just like the Japanese Korean studies that I was dabbling in and going back and forth to. I've tried monthly languages. I remember actually before 2008, my father got me Rosetta Stone, like the CD versions. Now I have the app, but I was going through those. Dingo tabete imasu. And I was like, yes, she is eating the apple. Like, that's one of the only phrases that I remembered from those first set of lessons. But I had no idea what I was doing. No clue. No clue how to build on a curriculum and create, a point A, point B, point C roadmap to getting myself to where I wanted to be. And I also didn't even know what that end goal was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Now I recognize that I had zero clarity. And that's why it's one of the first things that I always recommend. One of the first things that I do with any person that I'm working with is like, we got to start with clarity. Because if you're like me, sitting there saying you want to learn a language and you're just going to learn it, you're not just going to learn it. You have to have a picture in your mind, on paper, whatever works best, of it. What is it you expect to do with the language? Are you planning to travel? Do you just want to read books? Are you reading fan fictions in other languages? Because that's what I love to do. Are you playing video games in other languages? Do you want to watch dramas and movies? Do you want to become a translator? Because translation is an entirely separate skill. So you have to learn the language and you have to learn how to translate. Like, people go to school just for translation. It's separate from the actual learning of the language. And so we start there and want to shop. So then you got to learn a lot of language related to shopping, a lot of especially geared towards the things that you like to buy and you like to browse through. Store language, money, so numbers. And then with languages every language, I guess, has store language, how you talk a little bit more formally, generally, to customers. So understanding how people talk in stores, getting a lot of content around that. And for the languages that you shared, Prue, and if other people are learning similarly common languages, it's going to be easier for you to find resources. So you could literally type in on Google, going shopping in Korean. And you could find someone doing a vlog, someone actually showing you around, people teaching it. And you might find actual study material related to that. I learned you have to learn the words that you would talk in. Yeah, so that's a great way to start, because it can be really overwhelming to look at a list of words or just think of a list of words and say, I need to learn all the words. None of us know most of us don't know all the words. I know there's some special snowflakes out there that probably know a lot of words, but it helps to think about what are the words that you use in your native language so that you are tailoring your entire learning experience to words you would actually use. But there are some words that we know that we don't ever use. Like, if you're like me and you read I read all the time. I read every single day. There's not a single day in my life that I have not read, outside of before I could read. And so there are words that I read and I know what it means because of context, but I couldn't tell another person what it means, as a definition. There's some words that I've read and I understand it completely, but I have never actually said that word aloud. So if someone said it to me, I would have no clue what they mean because I've only read it. So there's a lot of that nuance as well. But I think starting with words that you are interested in. So you're interested in politics, government, law, fashion, etc. So yeah, you would need to learn certain phrases around that. And I'm glad that you said phrases rather than individual words. I always recommend learning phrases over words, because learning words in isolation means that you're probably going to use the wrong word in a specific context. Like, for example, this is a little bit different, but let me see if I can find a better example than that. Off the top of my head is really tricky. There was one example. Dag, I just lost it. It's gonna come to me and I'm gonna try to remember it. But using a word where it's like that's not exactly how we would say it in our native language. Like I got what you meant, but it's not exactly what you should be using here. But having it in a set phrase and seeing it in context tells you not just what the word means, but it tells you how it's meant to be used. What kinds of conversations are people having when they use this kind of word? And if it's a language like, I know Korean has a really good like Naver dictionary where at the bottom of it, when you look up a word, it'll show you like idols, for example. Using the word, you get to hear the context that it's being used in. So you can be like, is this what the message I'm trying to present? This sounds a little bit more casual. This sounds a little bit more formal. Like you get that context. Because when you're trying to learn everything, when you would watch dramas, it was hard to remember. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely a reason why you should 100% focus on the words that you would actually use. And I mean, there's so many strategies that you can use to memorize them. One is one of my favorites, which is sentence building. But it takes time, it takes practice. You have to keep doing it. The more, I think a lot of us, when we are confronted with a challenge like trying to memorize words, trying to memorize grammar, or even like conjugation, trying to memorize a specific conjugation, when it gets hard, we want to stop. We want to say whether it's I want to take a break or I'm just going to switch to something else. You have to push through that difficulty either directly by continuing to do the thing that you were doing or by finding some alternate strategies that you can apply and add into your routine. Because the only way to learn is to keep doing it, keep practicing, keep learning so that you can ultimately start using the language that you're learning. So, for example, I love learning grammar. Grammar is very easy for me to learn. Muscle memory, absolutely. You have to make it muscle memory. So grammar is easy for me to learn in most languages. I say most, I would have said all if I hadn't started Russian and cases popped up. Most languages. But vocabulary is a lot harder for me to learn and memorize. So I have to put active practice, not just passive practice like I could do with grammar. I have to actively use and come into contact with the words as much as possible so that I can understand them and remember them, recall them. Now, most people immediately would use flashcards. They don't work for me. So I do a lot of writing them down. I do a lot of sentence building and using them out loud or in sentences, like writing them down. I will record myself using, like, I apply so many different strategies that help me and make that process simpler. And then especially if you've gotten this from a resource like a textbook or a drama, you've heard these vocab words, I would watch it again later and see how much more I understand or don't, because that's going to keep bringing it to mind. Like I remember there's one word, and of course now I don't remember it, and it's the one time. So there's this word in Japanese that I learned probably close to a year ago from my friend. Is it shinka? Oh, I remembered it. Okay, I actually did. Yeah. So there's this word in Japanese, shinka, which is like evolution. And when I learned it, I was working with a friend. We were like on Discord. I think it was playing a video game, and that word came up in the game. So we would collectively like play a game, or he would stream the game, and we would try to understand what was going on together because we were all learning Japanese. Shinka was the word that he religiously would message me on Discord, like, Bront'e, what is this? And he would just show me the kanji. And he'd be like, you have to read it now. And I'm like, oh. And for a while, I could not remember it, and I would cheat, and I would look in the dictionary. Then after a while, every time it came up, it was random. It was like in an afternoon, 2 weeks later, in the evening, mid-conversation, he would stop and be like, what's this word? Just pop the kanji into chat. And after a while, I started to remember. It took me a moment here, but I still remembered, and I just double checked with the dictionary. Shinka. And so those are the kinds of things that you need. You need it brought to your attention multiple times in multiple instances. And that's why flashcards can be very helpful. But if you're not a flashcard person, it's actually going to hinder your progress. It's going to make it harder because you don't like to, do the same thing every day, or just the idea of flashcards are frustrating for you. I mean, there's different ways to set them up, but if flashcards don't work, there's so many other strategies you can use. But yeah, you have to build that muscle memory, that recall, and recognition. So being able to see and understand it, and also bring it to your mind when you need it. Those are important skills. And so that was my one example experience of what it's like when one skill is really tricky for you. So vocabulary is really tricky for me. What else? Speaking's really tricky for me, but not the speaking itself, like the strategy around speaking, because I have a really good ear for intonation and pronunciation, even if I can't always replicate it well, or replicate it well in the beginning. Because notice, I'm even messing up in English and I don't really care that much. But my speaking tends to grow slower just because I don't put myself in a lot of speaking situations. I will text people, I will chat, on my phone, write an email, write a story. I will listen to a lot of podcasts and videos, but my studies is definitely sometimes void of the peopling part. And so I have had to be really strategic about, okay, if I am not going to talk with people every single day, what are the ways that I can still build my writing or my speaking without actually talking to another person? Sentence structure for you. Think being a musician helps with the sense, used to matching pitch. Exactly. So I think that's the same thing for me, coming from a self-studied music background. Like I did choir and, stuff in school. I taught myself piano, played recorder, tried to learn guitar, and then I gave up because I wasn't that interested. But like I have enough of a music background where similarly, like I hear it and I know when I'm doing it wrong, and I can hear when other people are like slightly off what I anticipate the intonation or the pronunciation to be. The ear training absolutely helps. And so that means that you can at least hear when it's where you want it to be and not, and you just have to practice. You just have to say the words again and again, and you have to, that's when shadowing becomes really helpful, because you're listening to someone else say the words in a sentence, and then you're repeating them as they are saying it to improve that pronunciation and intonation, that flow. So you sound a little bit more like a native speaker, if that's something that you're striving for. Now, you don't have to. I think it's really cool. I mean, we all have accents, so I don't think that needs to be priority. But if that is something that you focus on, I know for myself, the reason why I focus heavily on pronunciation is because my ear hears when it is not the way I want it to be, and it bothers me personally. And if it bothers you personally, go right ahead and fix it. But don't fix it because someone else said your accent's weird. Everyone's accent's weird to somebody. Literally, everyone's accent is weird to someone else. So don't, fix, adapt, change just because of that. Do it because it bothers you, because you actually want a different accent, or don't. And learn, like I have a friend who was learning Japanese with me for years. And I remember for a while, because of my ear, I was like, there's something slightly different about her intonation. Like the way she says sentences is like a little bit Americanized. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just heard it and I was like, am I weird for hearing this? So then I started to pay attention to other people's accents. And I had a friend who was a native speaker, and I noticed how she would add L's in the place of R's in Japanese. And I was like, that's interesting. So then I just started to pay attention to everybody's accent, which is why I feel so strongly about, like, everyone has an accent. You can just do what you want. Someone told you sound like an Aussie Canadian. And that's so interesting. So like some of your vowel sounds are a little different. And then wait, because they're both kind of vowel. That is it. Now I'm curious. Like I want to go look up on YouTube an Aussie Canadian. And then you can't stop hearing it. Yep. Mm-hmm. And then I couldn't stop hearing it. And it's the same thing like when people point out my accent as a New Yorker. Um, I definitely have fixed some of the things because again, once it was pointed out to me, I couldn't stop hearing it and it bothered me personally. It wouldn't bother me if I was just like I guess if I didn't have the ear for it, because I'd be like, this is just me. But for example, as a New Yorker, when I say ask, like to ask a question, I would say ax. And sometimes it still comes out that way. And I was like, oh, I didn't even notice. Like, I didn't even notice that my brain to mouth speaking went, ask. Let me ask you a question. Now I'm like, let me ask you a question. But sometimes when it comes out very quickly, it switches. And I think that's what makes it really fun for us as speakers to have a little bit of color to our speaking or writing to show. I mean, one, we're learning multiple languages. There are lots of people and communities that learn multiple languages from birth. But for those of us who are born in communities where generally people learn one language, their native language, and that's it, it is super impressive to be learning multiple languages, even if it's just one other language other than your native one. And so in addition to that, we're learning more than that, and we're trying to keep them and maintain them. Like, that's a lot. So if you're mixing up some words, fine, it happens. If you are, having to remind yourself of the pronunciation, notice how many times that I messed up pronunciation of words in English. It's gonna be 5. Go for it. And if you need support with that, you know how to find me, Prue, because I will be there 100%, whether we're working together or not, supporting you along the way and cheering you on. But yeah, if you want to go for all 5 right now, do it. Hey, Sapphire, how are you? Glad to have you here. We're just chit-chatting. Although I've been here for a while and I think I'll hop off in like 15 minutes. My main goal is to talk about the membership because it closes today, but I'm also just, talking, answering questions, doing a little bit of work, pretty much how most of my lives are. So if you have questions, let me know. If you are interested, I kind of pulled it down, but I can put it back up. Since I find my mouse. And if you're watching on YouTube, hey. There. Boom. So right now, the current price is $35 a month. But I cannot guarantee that the next time that we open up that it will stay that price. So that's why I'm like, guys, if you are thinking about joining, I've been saying this to a few people. I even had like a DM conversation with someone. So if you're interested in joining, now's the time to do it, because even some of the people who join as founding members, like they lock in that price and it will never change for them. So when you join in at this $35 a month, it will stay that price for you, even when the price increases. And I say when, not if, because it will increase. I just don't know when. I haven't decided when I'm going to launch again. So it might be 6 months. It might be a year. Absolutely. And I'm doing so many updates to the space right now. Like I have Notion up right here on my screen. And I'm doing milestone updates, action step updates, resources that I'm going to be creating in the future, organization updates, like the whole platform is getting an entire makeover. It already started kind of. And I'm very excited about that because I kind of built things in the moment and was like, oh, I guess we need this area. Let me add this thing. Oh, I guess we need this thing. Now I'm like, now I know what we all need. So let me make this clear and organized for people so that it's not overwhelming or hard to find things. And then also the eventual structure is there's going to be 3 tiers to the membership so I can make it accessible to people depending on what you need and what you want to opt into. But right now it's just pro level, $35 a month. And that'll be our bi-monthly coaching, tons of like the micro bite-sized courses that I plan to create and the ones that are already available. So like the first one that was already created, Sentence Building Pro, people get that for free. Otherwise, it's $9. And then really, I'm just excited to like continue talking with people and working with people, because I've had a few coaching calls even this month. We had some bonus sessions because of the coaching week, and it was so fun. Like, my favorite thing is being able to talk to you guys. So that's why I love these lives. Being able to talk to you all and hear about your language studies, hear about what you're trying to do, help you brainstorm, help you map out what you want to do. And then also to like hear about the wins that you're having too. Like, I love to cheer people on and celebrate your wins. I love to be the person, if hopefully not the only person in your life, but if not, but if that is the case, I will be your biggest cheerleader, because I think it's so important to celebrate every single win that you're having, big or small. So. I just heard something and I went to go look. But yes, so if you are interested in joining, now is the time to do it. Tell a friend, all those good things. Oh, my friend is also live. Yeah, we're all doing lives tonight. That's fun. Okay. Oh, any other questions about like the membership, about language coaching? Because I realize, I think when I talk about it, I'm a nerd when it comes to, well, I'm a nerd in general, but I'm also a nerd when it comes to learning languages. And so I love to talk about the how and the technical side, because I love to do that, but that's also my job. And I forget that not everyone loves the process of learning and just wants to get to the goal of, I'm there, I've learned it, I'm using it. And so I have to remind myself of that's also a win too. I love sitting with a textbook. I love the process of figuring out the grammar and unpacking the strategies that I'm using. But I also love being able to like sit down and read a fan fiction and be like, oh, I know what they're saying in this fan fiction. Watching a, YouTube video and turning off the subtitles and going, huh, I didn't even have to pause it. I got this. This is great. Like, those are wins too. And those are exciting too. And so I want to help more people get there. I want to help more people learn the languages that they're trying to learn, use them, and help people, not just sit and study and forget that last part. How to sign up. In my bio, top of my bio, there is a button with a link. You can also just go to, actually, I should have changed that because it's easier. polyglotfox.com/pro. But yeah, in my bio, top of my bio, link should still be there. First button at the top. Or this. That's the other one. And that's easier to remember. But yeah, I have some exciting things that I want to do because I've been testing out different structures for support. One of the things that I think, and we've kind of tried this out during our bonus sessions, was I haven't actually chosen I haven't decided on an official name for it, but the collaboration, co-working, and coaching call. It's all 3 in 1. You get to stay on the call and either stay in one breakout room to get coaching from me or listen in. You get to hop into a room to collaborate with other people, talk with each other about what you're doing in your language studies, ask for support from fellow language learners, or you get to hop into the breakout room where it's absolutely silent. It is co-working. You are getting the things done. You are studying because this is a dedicated time to get it done. That's one of the things I'm very excited to bring, in addition to like our accountability pods that we're slowly launching. and like all the other things, just because I know personally how supportive that has been to me, just in a lot of different areas. Like body doubling is something that I really need to get things done. I need to know that there's someone else doing something when I am doing the thing that I need to do, because it's easier for me to hold myself to it. If I know, hey, at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays, my time, me and my friend are doing some social media stuff. We are on a call in Discord together, and we are working on, Canva stuff and chit chatting together. And by the end of that call, we have stuff done. And then I know I don't have to worry about it for an entire week until we meet up again. I think that is really powerful. And then we get to like look at the calendar and be like, oh, look at the progress we're making. Look at that. I love it. I love this for us. And I want people to have that same experience, but with language learning, where you get to, whether I'm hosting the call or someone is hosting the call, someone in the community is hosting the call for accountability, that you get to not just have a dedicated time to study with other people, but you get to look across, the times that you've done it, to say, wow, I'm actually making progress. Like I started here, I started in this chapter, now I'm in this chapter. I started off not understanding anything, and now I understand 25% of what I'm reading and watching. Any measurement of progress that you have, it can be really helpful to do these things with other people. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to create the thing that, I'm sharing with people, which is this community and this coaching membership, is because I, as an introvert, as an outgoing introvert, because I love to talk to people, but I also recognize my energy drains quickly when I'm around people. I have personally experienced the power of being in a community with people on a similar path. I know that it is so important to find other people who are equally passionate and are trying to do similar things, so that I can get inspired by what they're doing. They can get inspired by what I'm doing. We can keep each other accountable and say, hey, how is that thing going? Oh, you're having a challenge. Let's talk about that. Like, this is a person that has your back. And then like the friendships that are built out of that, whether or not you were planning to find some language learning buddies, it just happens. And so I want to bring that to the people who are joining, not just the experience of learning languages so that you can get fluent, so that you can start using it, but also enjoying the process along the way. Because it's not like get the process out of the way so I can get to the end. It's like enjoy every single moment, so that when you get to your goal and you're doing the thing that you've been striving to do, it is just that much sweeter. It's that much more exciting, amazing for you. Versus saying, I struggled and I hated the entire way, but now I'm here and it kind of feels bittersweet. So it's a little bit of a side note, but that's how I tend to think about it. So I have now been on here for almost an hour and a half, and I think that I am going to end fairly soon. So a few different things as I am revving up to end. Oh, that's cool. So first, if you know of a language learning friend who is trying to learn languages, who wants to get fluent and start using the languages that they're learning, but they're not sure of how to start, tell them about me. Let them know. I mean, the deadline to join this particular opportunity, so Fluency Mastery Lab Pro, is closing. So in 30 minutes, this is closing down until sometime next year. But even just send them my way, send them to my free content, send them to my TikTok, to my YouTube channel, to my blog, because I have other resources available if you miss a deadline. But if you send it to them now, they can still make it. If you send it to them now, they can still make it. But yeah, I am not going to continue rambling and ranting because I think I've done enough for an hour and a half. But I thank you, everyone who was able to show up and attend and participate and chat with me. I really love these conversations. And I'm getting myself on a weekly schedule. So I'll probably share it sometime towards the end of the week, because I want to do lives kind of like one I did last month, where we had like a specific topic. And I want to do more lives with the gaming. I really liked being able to game in other languages and share that with you guys, because that's one of the ways that I love to learn. So I'm going to finalize a schedule on, you know, Bront'e, the language gamer. And we can hang out. You can watch, how I use video games to learn languages. Maybe sometimes there'll be some co-study sessions where I'm literally just studying and you get to have that opportunity to chat with me, and we get to work together. But I really just want to support people and show you that it is possible. So if you've taken nothing else away from this live, again, whether you're on TikTok or on YouTube, I just want you to know that learning languages is possible. Learning multiple languages is possible. You just have to get clear on exactly what it is you're trying to achieve and why. And then you have to create a strategic plan around that. And if you do those two things, you are going to be set up for making consistent progress so that you can start using the language that you're learning. And if you need help, I am here. Find me, DM me, let me know your questions. I can direct you or answer the question so that you have whatever it is you need to keep moving forward. Because I do not want people to sit in that frustration, in that overwhelm, continuing to cycle in burnout because you've binge studied for 6 hours, trying to memorize vocab that is just not sticking. And you continue to, avoid your friends and family because you're like, I'm not there yet. I can't speak to you yet. You're still looking at the books on your shelf and you're like, I can't read them. Every time I sit down to read them, they're frustrating. Or you stop watching the movies and the dramas that you like because you're like, I only want to watch it without subtitles, but I can't get there yet, so I have to wait. I don't want you to have to do that. And so in whatever way that I can support you with your journey, that's what I want to do. That's my message for you. That's my woo moment. But I will see you all around. Definitely continuing to make content. We have 30 minutes left on the clock for joining, so make sure to join. And I'm probably going to do another live tomorrow, actually. So I will see you all around this time. All signed up? Excited. Glad to welcome you inside. Love to see it. So I will see you there. You'll get to see all the like really beautiful updates that are happening. And tell a friend. That's my spiel. All right, so I'm going to say bye to YouTube first. So bye, everyone.